Welcome to Demystifying the Metaphysical, here to help you find more compassion in your life. The ear is one of the most important features in face reading. It tells us about our courage and our ability to take risks. It also tells us about the amount of information we can process before we shut down, whether we prefer to live in the moment or plan for the future, amongst a whole bunch of other revealing characteristics. A quick reminder from the Face Reading Basics video, link on the top right if you haven't seen it. The ear is of the water element, and it is one feature of the face that continues to grow throughout our life, but its position and shape will generally stay the same. The ages indicated by the ear are 0 through 14. We're going to start off by looking at the size of the ear, and we'll do this by looking at both the length and the width. Starting with the length of our ears, it tells us how much information we prefer to process. In order to determine whether our ears are long or short, we're going to compare the length of the ear to the length of the head. If your ear is 4 or fewer ear lengths, your ears are considered long. If the length of the head is about 5 to 6 ear lengths, this is considered average. Anything greater than 6 would be considered small. Let's take a look at the two people here. The person on the left has long ears, as the length of her head is about 3 1/4 ears long. And the person on the right has an average size ear, as the length of his head is about 4 1/2 ears long. Long-eared people are exceptional listeners. They have an insatiable appetite for information. They have stamina, are leaders, direct, have good business sense, and are outgoing and sociable. People with bigger ears in general, whether by length or width, are prepared to take risks, while people with short ears are cautious and conservative. People with short ears dislike information overload, as they prefer to take their time to process the information they receive. People with small ears are thoughtful, introverted, hardworking, and more of a perfectionist than people with long ears. Now let's take a look at the width of the ear. We're going to first divide the ear horizontally into 3 sections and compare the width of each section. Looking at the first ear, the width of each section is exactly the same. On the second ear, the top third of the ear is the widest. On the third ear, the middle section is the widest. And on the fourth and last ear, notice how the earlobe is the most prominent on this ear. It's almost half the length of the ear. Because the earlobe usually isn't as wide as the rest of the ear, the bottom section is considered wide if the earlobe is prominent. When the top third of the ear is the widest, the person will be comfortable taking financial risks. They like mental stimulation, have an excellent memory, and are adaptable. When the middle section is the widest, the person is comfortable taking physical risk, like taking part in extreme sports. These people are much more in touch with their feelings, are creative, and have an inventive mind. When the earlobe is the most prominent, the person will be in touch with the physical world, for example, tending to their garden or making things with their hands. They prefer stability and are courageous, sympathetic, passionate, and will plan for the future. They like to make sure they have a good nest egg for retirement. Let's take a closer look at the earlobe. When considering the size of the earlobe, it's relative to the size of the ear. People with small earlobes are emotional. They can be impatient and dislike routine and structure. They prefer living in the moment. People with large earlobes like to be in control, take on challenges, and are goal-oriented. Besides the size of the earlobe, we also need to look at the fleshiness of the earlobe. Traditionally, fleshy earlobes equate to a prosperous and abundant life. The modern interpretation, which is similar to that of a prominent earlobe, is that people with fleshy earlobes are planners. They live in the physical world and are in touch with their senses, which can sometimes lead to indulgence. Are your earlobes attached to the side of your face, or is it detached? When it is detached, there is a gap between the earlobe and the side of your face, like what we see here on the person on the right. People with attached earlobes have a strong connection to family and/or close friends. The attachment doesn't speak to the quality of the connection, but has more to do with the person's need for support from family and friends, while people with a detached earlobe are more independent and don't need the support. The position or set of the ear tells us about the speed in which we make decisions. When looking at the position of the ear, it is relative to the eyebrow and nose. The typical position of the ear will fit right between the two. When the top of the ear is above the eyebrow, this is considered a high-set ear, like what we see on the person on the left. When the bottom of the earlobe ends below the nose, this is considered a low-set ear, as what we see on the person on the right. People with high-set ears are decisive. They make quick decisions, sometimes even before they've gotten all the information needed, because they can be impatient. People with high-set ears also know from a very young age what they want to do with their life. They are original thinkers, reliable, and ambitious. People with low-set ears, similar to people with short ears, like to take their time going over the details before making a decision, because they are more cautious and careful. People with low-set ears are also intelligent, idealistic, and accommodating. There's usually a slight tilt to the ear, meaning the top half of the ear is a little further back than the bottom half. The more the top of the ear tilts back, the more likely the person will be stubborn and want to be in control. When you look at your face straight on in the mirror, are your ears flat against your head, or do they come away from the side of your head? Or is it somewhere in between? This characteristic tells us about our ability to conform to social norms. When the ears are close to the side of the head, the person has social tact, has the ability to fit in easily, and is a good listener. People with ears coming away from the side of the head are nonconformists. They focus on what they want to hear. They're curious, independent, and quick thinkers. The helix is the outer rim of the ear, and when looking at the shape of the helix, generally we're looking at the rim on the top of the ear. The round helix in the first ear shows a person who is optimistic, outgoing, imaginative, and reliable. The square helix has a sharp corner as seen on the second ear. This shows that the person is shrewd, insightful, and quick thinking. And a pointed ear, which comes to a taper tip at the top of the ear, shows someone who is perceptive, inventive, and a great communicator. Turning to the thickness of the helix, people with a very thin helix will need downtime. They need space and time to recharge. People with a thin helix can get overly enthusiastic and act impulsively. And people with a very thick helix are very sensuous and can overindulge. The conch is the shell-like inner circle of the ear. When both the helix and the conch are of equal prominence as seen in the first ear, the person is self-motivated. When the conch is less prominent than the helix seen on the second ear, the person will need to push themselves to achieve success. And when the conch is more prominent than the helix as seen on the third ear, this shows creativity, unconventional ideas, and lots of energy and stamina to bring those ideas to completion. Taking a closer look at the conch, we can separate the conch into the inner and outer ear. The inner ear is the area surrounding the ear hole, and the outer ear is the area between the outer rim and the inner ear. When the inner ear is larger than the outer ear, as we see on the ear on the left, the person will prefer to focus on their intuition and feelings and subjects like philosophy and spirituality. While people with a larger outer ear, like the ear on the right, will prefer to focus on objective and practical subjects like math and science. Now let's take a look at the border between the inner and outer ear. Is there a border between your inner ear and outer ear? If so, how high or prominent is that border? The ear on the left has a low border, while the ear on the right has a high border. When the border between the inner and outer ear is low, there is a blend of the person's opinion and the truth of the world. It's hard for them to tell the difference between the two. When the border is high and clear, the person is good at keeping their personal insights in perspective, not letting it cloud with the objective truth. If you've enjoyed the video, feel free to share, like, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.